To take this opportunity to share with a wider audience my recent presentation to the American Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, and her advisory council, NAIAC. It's time for regulators to seriously up their game. Time to tackle AI-powered disability discrimination in the workplace as a serious ethical and market failure. Unless the unintended consequences of HR and AI technology are urgently addressed, hundreds of millions worldwide face lifetimes of economic and societal exclusion. Just imagine, you lose your dream job because your stammer caused you to go 15 seconds over the 3 minutes permitted for the video interview, and the algorithm automatically discards you. You have a facial disfigurement, but the AI tool doesn't recognize your face as real. Your sight impairment makes eye contact tricky, but you can't find any way to request that the video assessment disregard the way your eyes move around. Your ADHD means you fidget in front of your screen, and the surveillance tech assumes you aren't working or accuses you of cheating. You usually lip read at interviews, no problem, but this robot interview doesn't have any lips. You've used a wheelchair since you were 4, but the virtual reality test drops you walking into an ancient tomb to assess your problem-solving skills. You struggle to even imagine standing up, never mind standing up while solving complex puzzles. And how will you know if your personality profile, produced by scanning everything you ever put up online, tells the recruiter that you belong to a Parkinson's disease network? Is that why your application got nowhere? And if you could take someone to court, who would it be? Developers often claim they have removed human bias by dropping their AI software into a standardized recruitment process that treats everyone exactly the same. But standard processes are by definition inherently discriminatory. Employers are obliged to make reasonable adjustments at every stage of the employment cycle because that is how you employ disabled people on an equal basis. We treat people differently to treat them fairly. Imagine insisting that the next Stephen Hawking climbs stairs to an interview because every candidate must do the same. Well, HR technology is the new stairs. What we have here is classic market failure. Neither the HR buyers nor their tech suppliers understand disability discrimination. Neither party seems to know how to design a recruitment process that is both barrier-free for people with similar access needs, think accessible game controls, and processes that are flexible for individuals so they can demonstrate their potential, as in bypassing psychometrics not validated for this particular candidate's autism. We need to move from deeply unhelpful waffle about vaguely defined inclusion and bring the conversation back to some disability equality basics. We all need to make it clear that equality in the workplace is not possible when you can't ask for longer in an interview because the online process just won't let you register the request, when you can't complete the application form using a screen reader, when you have an intellectual disability and can do the job, but the robot recruiter cannot simplify the questions, when the American screening tool discards your CV because it has never heard of the prestigious College for the Deaf, Loyola, or even more worrying, because it has. A leading HR tech developer, HireVue, recently published arguing publicly that it is the employer that will be liable if a candidate claims discrimination when HireVue data was used to justify the decision not to hire. Well, it's not every day that a supplier sends a buyer's beware alert to potential and existing customers. The big question is, are buyers bewaring? In essence, we have badly trained HR people buying badly designed technology that is all too often grounded in snake oil science. This is technology that is not fit for purpose for anyone, never mind those that researchers describe as outliers. I jumped at the chance to address the Secretary of Commerce because governments and regulators have a huge role to play if we are to limit the damage to the life chances of so many triggered by the rapid proliferation of these HR technologies. And so as I told her, I have something of a wish list for regulators. Here are the 6 things I would do if I had this magic wand. Wish 1, I would mount a formal government inquiry into the impact of AI-powered HR technology on national and local job markets and the wider economy. Because this isn't just about recruitment. We have surveillance tech, which provides employers with inaccurate and unfair assessments of employee job performance. You could lose your job because the technology tracks keyboard activity, but you use dictation software. And consider the student proctoring technology that so often wrongly accuses students with disabilities of cheating. And how robot supervisors now set unrealistic and physically damaging productivity targets for people in work. It goes on and on. This HR tech threat isn't just about replacing people with AI tools. They threaten to replace, or shall we call it, the randomized experience of unfair treatment. You might find a fair and open-minded employer next time. They're replacing this randomized experience of unfairness with routinely bedded in inevitable discrimination. And don't forget that many of the workers that will first be displaced, or do we say replaced by AI, these workers will probably be older and therefore more likely themselves to have disabilities and or health conditions. And ironically, when these older workers start to look for another job, they will have no choice but to try to get through these discriminatory automated recruitment systems. My second wish, we need to challenge the assumption that the problem is the technology and talk much more directly about and with and at the people who buy it and the people who create it and the people who market it as free from human bias, by the way, which any AI scientist will tell you is impossible. And we need to hold these people personally to account for mitigating potential harm with explicit reference to disability. That command, do no harm, should not apply just to robots. My third wish? Well, this means we need more straight talk from regulators. It was good to see the American EEOC issuing some guidance, the first such regulator to do so. But the time has come for regulators everywhere to make it crystal clear that the level of risk triggered by HR tech is now unacceptable. Regulators need to shift their messaging from it could be unlawful or may be unlawful and could violate the ADA to HR attention-grabbing statements like failure to make reasonable accommodations online will trigger serious legal risk. Failure to tell every candidate how to request reasonable accommodations from the outset is highly likely to be unlawful, given how hard it is to justify not doing something so simple as unreasonable. Wish 4, we need a formal inquiry into HR training and certification and the impact of that training on excluded and marginalized workers, including, but not only, the impact on people with disabilities. We expect doctors to know the difference between an elbow and a knee. We should be able to assume that HR professionals understand unfair disability discrimination and how to avoid it. How could a certified HR practitioner anywhere possibly ever justify buying a standardized automated recruitment system? Why don't they run a mile? Wish 5, the time has come to combine existing equality legislation with much stronger consumer protection. Developers should be required to prove that their HR products are safe for disabled and other disadvantaged groups before they can even put them on the market. We want this rather than waiting for named individuals, one at a time, to try to prove they've been treated badly by an algorithm they didn't even know was there. It's good to see the European Commission moving towards framing the challenge as product liability. And my final wish 6, just as we require the pharma industry to list the potential side effects of aspirin in every package, shouldn't these HR tech developers be required to list on the package the marginalized groups who, because they were not involved, were not taken into account in the development, the testing, the risk assessments of the product, are probably at risk? This then would alert the buyer employer to the potentially harmful legal and ethical and economic side effects of using that HR technology, and would alert regulators as to which vulnerable workers and job seekers are particularly at risk, as they, the regulators, simply read what's on the package. Both parties need to share liability. In effect, when we see an employer recklessly using a defective tool that has the potential to cause serious harm to already disadvantaged people, while ironically denying those same employers access to talent so everyone loses, Surely the manufacturer of a defective machine should be liable, as well as that customer who failed to exercise due diligence when deciding to buy it and use it. And then my final call to action, please, all of you listening with me today, join the growing community of influencers who are determined in every conversation regarding responsible and ethical AI to ask, and what about disability? I mean, how hard can it be when discussing race and gender bias to ask, and what about disability? Please do check our volunteer website, www.disabilityethicalai.org, a central resource bank we're developing to help key stakeholders understand and address these issues. Thank you.
Good stuff.
I made that as